Good afternoon, lovely people out there. This is another episode of The Piece of the Puzzle with Yes Exclusive Flowers. And today we have a lovely lady with us, Kate Shepherd. And she is an entrepreneur of its own kind. A lot of people who are in the event industry, they still know something different as a hiring company, an amazing interior design company that hired out for lovely events, and she also owns r.e.b.e.l Collective. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. Nice to see you.
Yes, it's nice to actually see faces around these days, even if it's
without
just
a mask on.
Without a mask. Yes, I think smiling faces are what we are missing, to see the most behind those masks. Right. But maybe the mask story is something that we're gonna keep for a little bit later. I think at this point, we just want to give you a little bit a platform which I think is very important for a topic that is quite serious in this time. I mean, a lot of people might not know, but in South Africa, we are still in stage 2 out of 5 lockdown after more than 5 months. And obviously that has affected the entire world economy, but for South Africa particularly, it has hit very hard a lot of industries, particularly the event industry, because only since about 2 weeks now, we are allowed to host events for only up to 50 people, but we have a curfew. That means people need to be at home by 10 o'clock, which still makes it very difficult for the event industry at large to operate. I think you, with something different, have done something in the very early stage of lockdown, which caught a lot of people by surprise and maybe also was a shock to us as well. I think we can be also very honest here. We were very surprised when we heard that something different had to go into liquidation. Yeah. And I think before you start with the liquidation process, which I'm sure a lot of people heard about, I want to actually go one step back and just hear how something different started. What did you have in mind when you opened that company, and what was your vision for this company?
Yeah. So something different was really, it happened almost by accident, but also very much on purpose, in that it was by accident that I came to South Africa. I came after school on my gap year. Everyone sort of disappears to another country. Yeah. And I absolutely adored Cape Town, so much so that I didn't want to leave. I ended up staying and meeting someone in the events industry. And I started from the bottom. I cleaned cables and I taped cables to the floor. And I was the carrier and the runner, and just really loved the energy and the vibe that the events industry has. I didn't know what I wanted to study. I didn't have any clear direction. And I just thought, there's so much life in this industry, and it's everyone's happy day. It's a happy event, or it's a wedding, and people always, you're celebrating. And that was just very attractive to me as a young kid. The company I worked for, I was 18 and I had all these amazing ideas of what I thought people needed, and nobody was interested. So I said, you know what, I'll go and do it myself and on my own. So we did that, and we went off and we started something different. I did have a partner in the beginning, and that didn't work out, but that was just a few years. Bought him out, and then from then on, it has just been built and build and build. And I mean, I want to say it's almost 16 years now that I had the business my entire adult life. It grew from providing a couple of chandeliers to sort of couches and designs, and it became basically full spatial design for eventing. We went into interiors, we had a shop. So we were sort of expanding and growing. We moved into 2 different cities. We were in Joburg. We launched in Joburg during another very hard time, which was the water crisis. And then we just registered our business name in the UK. The plan was 2021, we were going to launch in the UK. So that was kind of our next phase. And we were in our best year yet. Come December, we were in our best year yet. Since the water crisis, it had been tough. I mean, that hit us. I don't know if it hit you guys quite the same. I don't know. I mean, the flowers was an issue, but considering most of our clients were internationals, you know, they didn't want to come here, and people didn't want to seem to be celebrating in that time. So that's why we launched Joburg. Yeah, and it was just, everything was going well. The team was growing. We were sort of creating, and each concept and each event felt like completely unique. And it was just an exciting space. I mean, I went into December holidays really, really amped for the future. I mean, 2020, as everyone thought, was going to be their year, right?
That year, but it turned out a little bit different.
The magical year, and then it wasn't quite that. Yeah.
No. Yeah.
So yeah, very, very soon we saw it change. So it was quite quick for us in sort of noticing the change. But for us, I mean, by probably, I want to say, end of Jan, the Corona thing was spoken about, but we weren't there yet. We were still very much in the happy days, end of January.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, as I mentioned, it was very early that you have announced the liquidation of something different, which, as I said, I mean, took a lot of people by surprise, and maybe even like shocking. Was maybe even shocking for your staff, for your suppliers, for your clients, for everyone. Because in the beginning, also, I think everyone thought, it's just 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you know. I mean, no one had like any idea that it would take like even up until now. What was the reasoning, or how can you describe for people like to go like the way to say, I have to liquidate like very early on in stage like 1 basically of lockdown, but it was the 5, like it was like the first stages of lockdown in the first weeks, like, and how did that feel? Like, I mean, obviously, and I say this as an entrepreneur, if you have a business, it's like your baby, you know. I mean, you nurture it, you try to really like carry it over every like hurdle and bridge and like everything that comes along your way. So what made the decision to actually like do that so early?
Yeah, so I mean, I sort of chatted to a few people. We started to have a discussion. We actually had an Asian racing event that was in February, and that was kind of being talked about a lot, and talked about a lot in our office. And I went to a few people sort of higher end within that event, and I was trying to understand this coronavirus. Like, is this a really serious thing? How likely is it to come here? What's the next stages of it? So we started to have quite a few discussions, and my folks, my whole family is in the UK. Mm-hmm. So for me, they were also like a month ahead of us in the UK. So we were kind of watching what was going on there. And I was talking to a few friends who were in events in London, and they had sort of explained what had happened there and what was happening with internationals. And basically what happened is by about mid-Feb, people started to say they're going to shut the borders. They're going to close down flights, and the events, they're going to stop. And I was, you know, like all of us, I think we were in a lot of denial in the beginning. No, this is going to be quick. It's just going to be a small thing. And then we started to see the reflection in the business. And probably, I mean, again, you can probably ask the team, within about a week, all of our events cancelled, like every single one of them. So by the end of February, pretty much most of our events are cancelled. We had one that was holding on at the end of March, and then that cancelled beginning of March. I was actually away. I had a friend's wedding. I was away. And I remember literally getting the calls from my team saying, there goes another one. There goes another one. And it was sort of, they were just dropping off the board. And I was saying, well, when are they rebooking for? And that was always the question. When are they saying they're going to, oh no, June. So then we started to chat, and I started to chat to my business advisors and say, right, guys, it's likely to be a 3-month mothballing where we might not have any income for 3 months. And then what happened very quickly, and this is what happened about the 10th of March, 11th of March, that June became September. And then suddenly those weddings became 2021. And within a week, suddenly I saw that, hold on a minute, this is not something that's going to be 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month. This could be a drop off of not only our entire winter, but we might not really get proper revenue till 2021. And that was kind of when we started to have very, very serious discussions about what is survival like till 2021. And that was kind of where we got to. And I'm very fortunate to say that I'm part of an amazing organization called the EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization. And I was surrounded by a lot of incredibly talented people who had maybe also been through sort of this kind of scenario, or a liquidation or a business failure of sorts. And they gave a lot of great advice. I went to a business coach. I had an American business coach who had been through 9/11. His business had been in one of the towers. And his advice to me was that if you want people to get the most out of this, you need to make whatever decision you need to make it quickly. And then we started to chat with lawyers and with an accountant. I had a CFO, an amazing CFO who I trusted dearly. My father's an accountant. He's got many chartered accountancy firms. So he was also amazing at helping with advice and kind of really helping kind of get the right info across. Because there's really three stages to this. It's how long can you survive? And then how further beyond that go? So it became, is this a 6-month thing? Is this an 8-month thing? Is this a year-long thing? And even if we do go to 50 people and we can have 50 people, how many 50 people events do you need to have to survive? And very, very quickly and very early on, we realized the business is not sustainable without income. It's just as simple as that. The overheads are way too high. The business is way too big. We relied on, we had 2,500 square meter warehousing in 2 cities. We had another, 800 squares in Joburg. We had people, we did big over and we had big events. And if we didn't have that, then it would cripple us. So very quickly, within about 2 weeks, I had to go into self-isolation coming back from my flight. And I spent the entire time on the phone trying to figure out what a survival plan was. And my entire thing from the beginning was, I don't care about the stock in this place. I don't care about the buildings. I care about the people. Because to me, my team were my people. And that was from the get-go the big thing. How do they get the most out of this? And how do they, how do we help them the most? And the lawyer said the likelihood is we'll go into lockdown, and then all the UIF funds and all the UIF will get used. So the idea is that the quicker we move, the quicker that everybody can benefit from just UIF, but also what they get out of the liquidation. So it was a very, very quick process. And I think the decision was probably made in about 2 weeks. And I went through a range of emotions. I mean, I'm still dealing with those emotions, but just absolutely, it's like I've been hit by a truck. It was devastating. Like, I can't even relate it to anything else in my life, because it was probably the worst. Telling the team on that day was the worst day of my entire life.
It's somehow like a farewell, like when you lay somebody to rest, like similar, because you have
unexpected, and you just have to deal with the situation.
You have worked for so many years, and also let me say, whatever like is as an opinion in the industry about situations like that, it is always an individual decision that everyone has to make on its own. You always will have situations where you make people unhappy with your own decision. However, and this is also what I said, why I appreciate to talk to you. You stand up for the situation. You talk about openly and honestly about the situation, and what we want to show with this interview is also how to overcome things, and it's not easy, even if maybe for all outsiders it came so quickly and it came so unexpected, and it seems like this was a quick decision and just to get rid of problems. No, sometimes it is behind the scene. It is a totally different scenario, and we don't want to judge, or we don't want to take part of the one or the other. What we want with this interview And I absolutely appreciate that you agreed to this. And I was thinking a couple of times, if I would personally be brave enough to go on an interview after a situation like you are going through, and you have to show my face and to explain to people why I failed, even that I maybe not failed. And this is also something, you failed because, like, also the situation let you fail, like the situation that you, so
millions of other people
yeah,
also, you know, have gone through this. And I think it's not something that was like on any one of our agendas. It's not something that anyone to date has like catered for or put into consideration. I think now people might become more careful, or maybe like they will put some budget aside for like bad days. So far everyone was just rotating and like basically just moving money from one side to the other. No one made provisions for 6 months, like, or even 3 months or 2 months like of zero income. And I think specifically in the events industry, and I mean just like second or even first to hospitality, where also all of a sudden there was like no more travel, like no more accommodation. Like, I mean, this is very similar, like in terms of the implications of what has happened in those industries. Like even restaurants, I mean, you can have a takeaway. I mean, there was some possibilities to move around the situation, but for us, like generally in the event industry, there is just nothing that can be done or could be done. So I also like,
Yeah.
I want to applaud you in the sense that you show up and you show your face. But I obviously also can imagine that a lot of people like maybe question, like, how did she come to that decision? And I just want like to maybe go one step back, because I think that is something that we also as entrepreneurs take very personal. We identify much with our businesses, of course, because these are the businesses we love, we live in, we live for. I mean, most of entrepreneurs, work-life balance, like, it's a nice term, but they do not have that, you know. They have 24/7, like they breathe like their business, and this is what they do.
Yeah.
So and I just also, because I think it's very dangerous when people go into liquidation or when things like that happen, is that people take on personally the failure onto like themselves as a person. I have heard about
Yeah.
people who commit suicide, people who went into depression, people who can just not deal with the situation as like at hand. how
Yeah.
how do you show up? Let me just ask you that, like, how
Yeah.
after this, and how did it maybe also affect you personally? Because I am sure
Mhm.
110% that it affected your maybe confidence, maybe the way how you looked
Mm.
at yourself when you look in the mirror.
Yeah.
Like, what did it do to you as a person, like as Kate Shepherd?
Mm. Yo, it was devastating. I think once I got through the entire kind of sort of announcement process, I very much became a punching bag, but almost willingly, I felt like it was all my fault, even though had nothing to do with me. I mean, I didn't wish coronavirus. I didn't make coronavirus up. This wasn't something that I created. So the failure was devastating to me. I've not really failed in my past before. I mean, I'm clumsy and I might trip over, but I've never failed. And it was a huge knock for me. It was a huge personal knock. And the problem is that we went straight into lockdown. So I had my kids around that are two young kids, 5 and 2. And all I wanted to do was cry. I was so emotional, my poor husband, but I couldn't show it. And that was really tough in the early stages, was trying to manage that emotions. It was like running off to the bathroom to kind of like weep into the toilet. It was terrible. And managing it was so hard. I'm just extremely, extremely grateful for my family, for my husband, because without them, I would have gone insane. I think actually having the kids did give me lightness. Although the problem that I found is I had a huge amount of guilt. So the moment that I would laugh with my kids, the very next moment I would burst into tears. I remember my daughter so often asking me, what's wrong, Mom? What's wrong? Like, we were playing football and, I was laughing with them, and I actually felt some lightness. And then immediately the guilt came, and I just felt devastated. It was like this, like I wasn't allowed to be happy. I didn't allow myself. And it was a huge, huge internal battle. And every single thing triggered me, because it's been my whole life. Everything, like every picture, every word, every TV show. It became very, very difficult. So it was hard. But the one thing that I did do, and I think, many people who maybe are counselors or something would say it's bad, but I immediately threw myself into something else so that I could adjust my focus, because I knew that if I sat wallowing, I would go mental. I would go absolutely insane. It was spiraling, and I was becoming extremely negative, and I was going to a dark place. And I just thought, first of all, how are we going to survive? How are we going to survive lockdown? This potentially is the next few months. If you look at China and you look at the rest of the world, and looking to those places saying, okay, we need to have income for the next 3 to 6 months or a year. How on earth are we going to do that? So, I mean, literally about 3 days into lockdown, I sat down with my husband and my mother-in-law, and we said, we need to choose an essential service. That's the only way we're going to survive this, is pick one and focus on it. So yeah, that's what I did, is I had to readjust my vision.
And I remember just like a couple of days, like into lockdown, when I read your message, or when I wrote a message, then I had a feeling I want to call you, because also, and I want to mention this here, because this is also something that is important in our industry, how you connect to people, and what impact it has on people, like even that you don't even know. I told you that I still remember the moment 5 years ago when I was looking for sponsors for the current run event. And it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare to get sponsors in South Africa, because sponsorship was something nobody actually had an idea what it was. And I needed plinths, and you said, it's no problem how many plinths you need. And you delivered the plinths. And the most amazing actually for me was that you even painted them on site fresh. I mean, for something that you sponsored, that was something it impressed me in a way that I still remember that.
And how the guys packed them and unpacked them. This is what I still remember.
Exactly. How much they took care about that. Yeah. And I will be forever grateful for that. And it showed me that there is a connection in the industry with certain people that that you cannot describe. This is it. It happens, and it has an impact. And because I had this, when I read your message, I had this like personally shock. I can tell this, and like pain. That, and pain, yeah. And when I said to Alfie, I think I have to give her a call. And and this interesting thing was, and now it makes actually the circle round, that 2 times you sent me messages. I'm so busy. I call you back. And I said, like, what is this? I mean, like,
what is she doing?
Like, yeah, exactly. And but at the other side, it was so fascinating to hear then what you said, that you say you're busy with doing masks and things like that. And I said, wow. And this is what I feel like. You can fall, but how you stand up, this is important. And this is actually what I think is the message. Not the message if everybody agrees or everybody is happy with your decision. There's always people, maybe you heard, or maybe they are not happy, whatever. But what for us is important to send out as a message to our South African colleagues, or to colleagues all over the world, is it is, or it can happen in everybody's entrepreneur's life. Either you are responsible for a mistake or not. This is not the question, but the question is first how you get out, and secondly how you deal with
Everyone
things,
involved.
everyone involved, and then how you stand up again. And I think that's for me the most fascinating on you. You are like a little stand-up person. I think like you know this little when you are a child, you actually have this little
Yeah, I know
dolls
those
that you
they
push the
collapse.
button and they stand up again. This is something that I personally I see with you, and this is what I appreciate, and this is what I think makes an entrepreneur. And now I think you can tell us a little bit beside the masks that you do. Maybe is there a possibility for people to order masks, or what is also your new business, the r.e.b.e.l collective? What is it about that one? Maybe tell us a little bit about the new business. We have touched the past, we have touched the mostly the current situation, but we also want to move on with you and to see like what are your visions, and how you and how you feel about this. And also you said before your liquidation is still in process, so it is not yet finalized. So there's still you have to deal with all the administrative things and
yeah, and there is a lot of admin on that. So yes, there's a lot that I'm juggling, to be honest. So yeah, there's a lot of work on the liquidation, and that's one thing. And unfortunately, it's really depressing and it feels very negative. So that's kind of the drain in my life. The masks was really the hero for us. Fortunate, I mean, I can't sew at all. So it wasn't me, but my mother-in-law is an incredible seamstress. We came up with this pattern and literally started selling to people in our road. We started selling to friends, and then we started to go to sort of old fabric places that we knew of through the previous business. And just very quickly, I think within about 10 days, we did like 300 transactions on masks. It was ridiculous because it was that time when everybody was just needing a mask. You know, you couldn't go out without a mask. And it became a little bit bonkers. And we just were in the right place at the right time. The big thing about that was that I completely and utterly lost my identity when I lost something different. I have always been Kate Shepherd of something different. It is almost like it's my surname, Kate from something different. That has been my entire life. So when I wasn't that anymore, that was very, very confusing for me. And it was very difficult processing what I was going to do with my life, what's my direction. But to also think about that in such a deep, dark pit is very hard to say, what is the future? The moment that business closed, people said, well, what are you going to do next? I'm like, I don't have a clue. I'm not there yet. But what the mask did is it actually showed me that whether I probably didn't realize it as much because the business was sort of so old, but that actually being an entrepreneur was more what I was rather than being Kate of something different. And that was a big realization for me. And knowing that when we started the business, literally from a piece of cloth, no money, no input, no funding, we literally took a piece of cloth and we started from the ground up, social media, built a website, like did it all myself at 3 a.m. in the morning. And I worked every single night. Literally you can ask everyone around me till 2, 3 in the morning, most nights. I was absolutely exhausted. Mostly as a distraction, but then it became, survival, and it became, how am I going to feed my kids and how am I going to afford to live for the next few months? So the masks really it's kind of a slap for me. It really showed me that, oh my goodness, even in this deep, deep, dark pit, even in the bottom of the well, I can start something again. And that was a really big personal confidence boost. But I also knew that it wasn't forever. I mean, nobody started a mask business knowing it was, for the rest of their life. It was for a time. And I do need to do something with my future. I'm still busy figuring it out. But one thing I did know, like you said, my ego and my confidence has been massively knocked, you know, that you take a big hit when you think that something has failed. And, you know, do you even want to be in the industry? You know, where do you want to be if you get to start again? What do you do? The one thing I realized, no matter what, I love design. I love designing things. And I might not be able to get behind myself, but I could probably get behind a product. And I probably needed to start this by launching a product, because then I can sell the hell out of a product. I don't have to sell the hell out of myself. And that was kind of it. Probably needed to be a design product, and it probably needed to be, again, something that people need now. It needed to be an innovative product that's needed now, because right now people don't have time for luxuries. They can't go buy a fancy handbag. You know, we're not in that time right now. People are cost cutting. Yeah. It needs to be our new life and our new way of life. So in doing that, I kind of spent probably the whole month of June and most of July building different types of backdrops, because I was on Zoom call after Zoom call after webinar, and watching everyone's Zoom pictures of their arms disappear, and then, you know, the signal's bad, you can't hear them because they're using all the internet with the Zoom backdrop, and looking at people's sort of printers sticking out the back of their heads. And I suddenly thought, you know, there's definitely kind of a new professionalism that we need to do to these you know, these new online lives that we're going to be leading. And so the product was born. The backdrops were born.
This so is amazing. Actually, when I read it at first, I had to read it 2 times to say, okay, what is it?
Is this a product?
Yes, is this a product? Yeah.
Product of the new era.
Exactly. And it gives, I mean, like, I can maybe say that I'm old enough, I can say that every crisis can lead you to something new. And I have experienced that, and I mean, you are young, and that's why maybe for you this is something new. But we also talked a lot about the situation and whatsoever will come, and how things are going. And exactly like you, we have family in Europe, and we saw, like, as you said, 4 weeks ahead. Actually, we couldn't see that it's coming like that. Nobody could see that, but you could already see, like, what will come in 4 weeks, you know. And we also discussed, like, what we're going to do, and how we maybe manage. And also our situation is the same. Like, we are doing things and we are planning things now that we haven't actually really thought before, but we have to. And like, just for example, we are creating now and producing our own dried flower range. We imported those flowers before, and because there was no possibility to import them, and when we saw there's no flights and these and that, we started thinking of, like, maybe how we can produce them, and we partnered up with a company, and so now we have our own range. And I think, like, this is the flip side of this very dramatic situation where we are all in. The real entrepreneurs start making plans, and this is something what you actually show. And I mean, like, I like your backdrop. Like,
it's much nicer than ours. I can
just maybe we need something like that. We have to buy one backdrop from you, I think. So that maybe, and you can, like, every day you can have a backdrop, like, according to your
dress code.
Yeah, I think you get rich and we become poor. I mean, when you buy every day a new backdrop. But no, I like this idea. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I think, you know, I started to see as well, again, because I'm so connected to the UK, I do feel like I do live almost like a month ahead of sort of understanding what's happening there, and seeing that about 2-3 months ago, a lot of corporates were also saying, are we actually going to be fully back into our offices? Are people going to be, you know, working from home more? Is this a more efficient way to work? And I spoke to a lot of friends who are working from home and also moaning about the fact that they're having to perch in a really awkward position so they've got a decent backdrop and so the kid's mess isn't in the background. And, you know, someone said, I've got to sit on my bed and I feel so uncomfortable because it's like the only place I can sit to have a conversation. And it just kind of felt like it's probably it could be a really beneficial thing. And I've been putting it into quite a few corporates as well, because I think they need a professional front. You know, there's a lot of broadcasting, there's a lot of online so webinars now, and kind of creating something that's also part of the brand. So it can be pretty, but it can also be practical for the corporates as well. And, you know, again, tapping into that is what we did. You know, my background, my head is in design, my head is in backdrops and spaces and, you know, and making them prettier. So it kind of led into that, and knowing that doing what we used to do might not even be the industry, you know, that might not even be the same capacity anymore. You know, what is the future? And understanding that you can't just do the same thing again and hope for the same outcome.
No, and I mean, you are just another example. We have talked to so many people, and they all like staying in the industry, but they came mostly from another industry, and they benefit from either if they were a doctor, if they were a lawyer, if they studied finances or was a secretary or whatsoever. All of their previous professions, let me say like that, right, led them and gave them an advantage in the job they are doing right now, you know. And I just remember, like, Wedding Butterfly, you know, she was a doctor, and she launched her flower company for funerals, because she has the ability to see death in a totally different way than in a totally different light than maybe most of us, you know. For her as a doctor, this was something, a part of her previous job, and she professionally approaches actually this type of
I couldn't do it. Like I would be weeping like with the family, like and I couldn't, like, I mean, like, tell people what type of flower or arrangements like we can offer. I mean, that's not, but if someone like can do it because they have that advantage, and you, I mean, your heart, I think, is in design, interior design, and like as you say, like spaces and transformation, and just like looking into a place and seeing maybe what can be done in a certain way to transform it into a certain way, like whatever is required, whether more modern or vintage or whatever. I mean, this is we have done like 16 years, like that's a long time. And I think it's you will never lose like whatever you have done like in your past. And I think that is also the message that should go out, is wasted time, you know. All those years
I said that
exactly
today. I said, 100%. I literally said those words today to somebody.
Yeah, and even if maybe it had now sort of a bitter ending, like, but still all of the experience and everything that you have learned will push you and guide you towards like the new way how you like do business, and like how you do business, where you do business, with what you're gonna do business. And I think that will essentially also be an advantage for you. I mean, the way like how we came into the flower industry was like we came into the flower industry like predominantly not because we came from the flower world. You know, we came first of all from the from the corporate side as well, and then from the event side, because this made us understand like a lot of things from the commercial side, but then also from the event side, how people think in events, what type of flowers they need, how the texture should be. And we are not pure salespeople in the sense like that we just put something into the market. It needs to make sense for events, because in South Africa particularly, most of the people in flowers are event-based companies. There's not like in Europe, and I mean, you know, there's a flower shop on each and every corner. This is not something that is available here in South Africa, so the market is completely different. I wish it would be the case, and obviously now it's transitioning also. A lot of people are opening now more flower shops because also of the need, because there are no events. So this is like a very normal process, because people need to evolve right now. They need to see like what can they do if they cannot do events. But before that, it helped us also a lot of where we came from to say this is like the direction of where we are going right now.
And I want to go back to one thing that you said before. There was a moment when you said, what I'm gonna do tomorrow, and I remember one day in my life there was the same question. Something ended and I had no idea what will come, and I had the same question myself, what I'm gonna do tomorrow. And I actually went out in nature and I had a day in nature, because nature always inspires me, you know.
Yeah.
And a couple of weeks later, things actually came together, and it had to do something with nature, with flowers, with like I had no idea, honestly. I had no idea, but I strongly believe in the circle of life, and that like one thing leads you to something else, like. And as Alfie said, like the experience that I had in my previous life, I never thought that this will help me in my current situation. But the last couple of months, we have talked so much together about that, and I strongly believe that all what I learned, and sometimes it was very hard, what I learned in my previous life, that that led me into a different approach to the flower industry in particular, and to see it from let's say from a different angle. People said one day, like when we established the flower trade, we have revolutionized the South African flower market, and I thought, oh my God, what big words, you know. I mean, like I didn't even saw it myself like that. But the longer we are in, the more we also see why people feel like that, because we see it from let's say, from a structural point, like how we structured our business and things like that, which has never been there. But I came out of an industry where we had something. And I thought, when we can sell like software on a web shop, why we cannot sell flowers on a web shop? Things like that lead us sometimes into totally different spaces in our life and in our entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. And I don't think I even really know where the future is going to be. I think, you know, I keep saying this is a business. r.e.b.e.l Collective is the brand, and I will go where I'm told. I am a sort of a Christian and a faith believer. So for me, I believe that there is a path somewhere. I don't know what it is yet, but I will follow that path and I'll follow where I'm guided. This is my first project and my first product. I don't know where it's going to go. I know I've spoken to quite a few people about even just coming on to consult and to chat to people about events, which I think is, you know, potentially part of a future. And I don't think you can ever give up. I said today, you know, you sort of reiterated words I said today, which was, I don't have a degree. I don't have anything. I don't have a piece of paper that says, you know, a nice reference from my last boss even. I don't have that. So all I can rely on is the people that I've met, the connections that I've made, and the knowledge that I've gained over the years, and to go forward having that really, and understanding that there is worth in that. Because in the beginning you go, well, I don't have, where's my nice certificate? I don't have anything to prove for
your
it.
experience is your certificate, Kate.
Yeah. So understanding that and kind of recognizing that, and then kind of saying, well, I'll be led by the future and I'll follow where, for me, it's always been about being in a category of one. You don't want to be one of 300 people doing the same thing. And the other thing is finding the niche. You know, when I started this business, there was nobody doing like pretty hanging lighting or aesthetic kind of design in this country. Yeah. So for me, it was about finding the niche. And, you know, right now it's very saturated. So maybe this was a natural evolution. I don't know. I mean, unfortunately, like I said, coronavirus is a little bit of a worldwide pandemic, was not on my risk matrix, put it that way. Yeah. And, you know, now we evolve into what the new future is, which will be very different to a year ago. So I will look for the niche. That's really where I'm at the moment, waiting and looking.
This is not too bad to look for a niche, because this is always what I say. When you start something new, look for a niche, because otherwise you are too small to compete against the big guys. They are already in those particular industry.
Absolutely. It's the reason why we named ourselves something different in the first place.
Exactly.
So,
And because when we are with the names, I mean, rebel, I like this because I think you are like a rebel in your own like personal way, but
yeah.
how rebel?
Yeah, so the name is a personal name for me, because it like you say, I've been called that from preachers to teachers to people in the industry. I think we always try to be sort of disruptors and changers, and I think, I want to be seen as that. And I think the other thing for me is that a rebel is someone who stands up and is someone who is confident in taking a stand, and that's kind of also something I'm passionate about. And also for me, the rebel, and that's why there's the dots. It's an acronym for sort of the things that I've been through as well. So it also stands for sort of resilience, elegance, boldness, education, and lion heart. And then collective, because I don't know what the future holds. I love people. I love to have a team. I really enjoyed my team, but I also, it was a very, very painful sort of when we liquidated. So I do believe in the future being a collective of people, being a collection of people that create amazing things. I am no man is an island. I cannot do it all on my own. There will be many people in the mix, and many things from it. So I didn't want it to be a company or a concept so I wanted it to be a collective. So that was very important to me as well. So yeah, so that's kind of the reason behind the name. And also nothing too specific, because I'm not sure where the future is yet as well. So I didn't want to say I'm a design business or I'm a interiors business, because I mean, what's the future at this stage? So I think I'm very much following the path. I'm following the leads and I'm following my heart at the moment.
Tell me, like, where can people who are now interested in maybe like your backdrops, like, is there a website already where they can purchase this, or how does that actually work?
Yeah, so I think, I mean, again, I'm building it myself, so it's in progress. So, I mean, at the moment, you could probably get us on Instagram or on my email address. I mean, hello@rebelcollective.co is the email address. I can send catalogs and everything. And then the brand for the masks, if people need, is superheroes wear masks, .co.za.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And is this, I mean, like, out of my personal interest, is this, can you purchase like one backdrop at a time, or is there like a whatever collection that you say, okay, this is what you sell, or how's the concept actually?
Yeah, so it's actually, I mean, I don't know if you can kind of see behind me, but it's actually a modular. So it's made up of many panels that all interconnect. It's made from a lightweight foam. It is all kind of interconnected. It's a bit like a puzzle, because obviously I mean, we all know that if we ever have a seam, you normally need to tape it or you need to glue it. So it is a tool-free, screw-free solution. It's modular, it packs down, so it can pack into a cupboard or under a desk. So that's the idea. And yeah, I have a full collection of sort of what I would call wallpapers. So styles you can choose from in different varieties, but also you can completely customize it for the same price. You can have your own name on there or your own company brand on there as well. And you can do it double-sided because there's no backing. So it can be two different looks.
That's great. That's interesting. And I think, I mean, Zoom calls and webinars and like everything like online based is going to be around for a long time. I think it was just a start right now, a kickoff Although I think we can all agree that we love to meet people again in real
Yeah.
life and
Yes.
to touch and to hug and to just enjoy each other's company. But I think just also from a professional way, I think it's something that is going to be with us still for a long time. And yeah, specifically for corporates, for branding, for those type of things, I think it's very interesting. Can I maybe just one more,
yeah.
like go into the personal Kate Shepherd? Like, because we all know that being an entrepreneur goes very deep also together with like who we are as a person and our characteristics and our strengths and weaknesses. And obviously that will reflect a lot in the business or the type of business that we run. When you look now into the future of maybe whatever will come, and it's, I mean, we all know it's easy to talk about successes and it's very hard to talk about failures, like generally. But what is it from your past experience that you would take somehow as an experience where you say, this is something that I do not want to do again in any type of business, maybe that I want to do in the future?
Ooh, that is a very good question. I think, you know, the thing that I've realized is that you cannot please everybody, and I am a bit of a people pleaser. A bit of a people pleaser. I am a very bad people pleaser. All I want to do is make sure that everyone else is okay and everybody is okay. And going through this, I've really realized kind of who you can trust, who you can't trust, and who to please, who you can't please, and knowing that you cannot please everyone the entire time, all the way through your life. So that has been a huge lesson in this. And also understanding that being vulnerable is important. And I think people don't do it enough. And I think as a business owner, there's a big bravado and there's always like, this is so-and-so, this successful entrepreneur. And I think there's also a lot of power in the story and in vulnerability. And I think a lot of the time we all put up too much of an ego. And I think we don't need to bleed too much emotionally, but I think being vulnerable and being available is important. And that is something that I take away from this experience as well. And moving forward, I think the big thing for me is I spent a lot of time comparing and doing comparison. I don't know if that's something you guys do in the industry, but, you know, you look on Instagram and there's kind of like, what are they doing? What am I doing? You know, and there's a lot of comparison. And I think moving forward and why I want to push to be an authentically kind of creative person doing innovative things is because I do not want to be in that position again where I'm getting to compare myself constantly, because it's terrible and it's painful for your ego and for you as a human. And it's something I did a lot in the previous business. So those are kind of sort of some of my lessons sort of through this process and from the previous business.
Interesting.
Interesting. And I can just tell you one thing. I never look what other people do. Sometimes it's even that other people tell us, have you seen what they have done? And I said, no, I haven't, because I'm normally not looking, because exactly what you say, it makes me crazy. And that's why I don't
it takes away focus. You know, I think it takes away focus and energy from what you can actually put into like your business is when you do not see what others are doing. And if you're just focusing because you believe that this is what needs to be done, then is going to be the right thing. Whether someone else has done something similar or not, or what, I think this is like, I mean, we are in a creative industry, like generally, I mean, you specifically, obviously in your previous business, but like, I think there is just one product and everyone interprets it in a different way. Obviously for us, it's a little bit different on the flower side, because there's just like a rose as a rose as a rose. Like generally, I think the product and the type of things that we get into should reflect also the vision that we have as entrepreneurs, like what we want to see, what we like, the type of clients that we want to attract, like where we want to push our business to go. And as you rightfully said in the beginning, I think it's got to do a lot with the niche, because when you have found that niche, you need to be less careful of like what other people are actually doing or what they are saying, because like you are in a very particular spot where you are providing a service or a product that other people need. It's not easy to
Yeah,
find that, and I think it I mean for some people it like takes forever to find something that is a niche product on the other side. And I think this is also one of the main reasons why you are still in South Africa and why we are in South Africa. Generally, like Africa, but also South Africa offers us as like Europeans still something that is very unique, which is that we can leave footprints in the market which is very saturated maybe in other parts of the world. It still has a
absolutely.
lot of opportunities for us, for entrepreneurs, for people who are passionate about what they're doing, about like how they see themselves, and maybe they have a vision for a certain industry. It gives us the possibility to say, you know what, we can still do something here which would not be possible somewhere else.
Like 100%. I think, you know, being British, I love the sand of Africa, but you know, many people in this time specifically, there's so much negativity in the country at the moment that I feel like every discussion with friends is how soon and how quick can everybody leave. I think for me, because again, I'm starting again. So right now I can start afresh in any country that I want to. I could go back to the UK if I wanted to earn pounds. We could go overseas if we wanted to. And both my husband and I have said the opportunities lie in Africa. And I do believe, I heard a very good friend the other day said it, but where there is uncertainty, there's opportunity. And I think right now we're in a place where there is yes, there is a lot of negativity and a lot of things that are not going well, but that also opens up the floor for entrepreneurs, because we are the people that fix things, we are the people that find the niche, we are the people that make the change. And in Africa, you can make the change probably quicker because there's less protocol. Do you know what I mean? Overseas in England and Europe, there's so much layers you got to get through before you can make a change. Whereas here, even with the mask business, you know, the big thing for our mask business, and we said from the get-go, we don't want to just make money. That's not the point of this. We want to give back, you know, and to make a change here. For every 100 masks, we donated 10. Now, that became huge and big numbers, and we were donating hundreds and thousands of masks into schools, into communities, to soup kitchens. And I think making the change is so much more impactful. It feels it here. And I feel like there's a massive amount of opportunity here. Massive.
You are so right, and I can just like 100% agree what you say. But I also see that we as Europeans, or let's say as foreigners, we maybe see it in a little bit a different way, because we know the other side already. And a lot of South Africans, I feel sometimes very sorry when they say they have to leave the country and because of this and that. And yes, I know a lot of things that are not right, a lot of things that is unacceptable. However, the grass is always greener on the other side. And I'm not so sure if every South African is really, really happy in New Zealand or in Australia or in the UK or wherever, you know, because home is home. And I mean, like, we feel this as a second home, but however, we always know we are foreigners in this country, you know. And I think like as you say, there's so much opportunities here, and a lot of people, they don't realize that. South Africans, I would say, they don't realize. And I would encourage people to look into things, to look into opportunities just before maybe they leave the country, because we need those creative people or those entrepreneurs here, because otherwise we are bleeding out of our
blood, because the like middle class is, and I mean entrepreneurs like generally, and even like those people who just come up with fresh things, are the ones who will drive a country, you know. And this is just something like, I mean, on socioeconomics, generally, I think if you can make it also in a time like this, you can make it at any time. And that's why I applaud you in a way that I say, I take my head off for bravery in one sense, to say, to show up publicly. And as you mentioned, you have been part of many podcasts and interviews, and I think it's something that a lot of people on the one hand side can learn from. It shouldn't be a taboo topic. Failure is not the end of the world. It's just a way to maybe also like learn and like maybe elevate to another level personally, but also change business structures. I mean, obviously the liquidation is something that is an end, but it's not the end of life. And I think that is also something important, and an important message for every entrepreneur, because yes, I think we are all very personally connected with our businesses. And when we see that our businesses fail, then we also feel that we have failed, and that we have maybe not even a place, the right to be here anymore, because we have let also other people down. We have let us down also in the most trivial way. And I think that is also something that a lot of people from the outside don't see, that we have a soul and that we have a heart that beats for our business. And when we have to give that soul or this business away, it takes away our identity, as you also mentioned. We
100%.
and they, I mean, they are serial like business entrepreneurs. Nonetheless, every part of a business is a part of yourself. And otherwise also it wouldn't work, you know. I mean, if it's just something, it wouldn't work. So I just want to let people know, even though that, I mean, maybe a business has failed, you can come out at the other side. Like, you personally, as a person, you can make it work. And as I said, I read sadly that there are a lot of business owners right now that are in deep depression. Generally the suicide rate has like increased dramatically amongst entrepreneurs, which I think is a super sad situation. But then again, and I think this is what I want to leave maybe at the end of the day, I trust in collectiveness and reaching hands. And I think what we want to do right now here, what maybe my mom has done also in the first way, is to say, if there is a business who has a problem or who doesn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, reach out to people who you can maybe like call or who you can visit. There will be a solution to any problem, whether it's a liquidation, whether it's who can just give you advice, some ears to listen. I think they are just obviously different levels. But I think at this point, it's also very important to mention that we are here. Anyone can always contact us. I think that is something that we also keep things very confidential. But I applaud you for being open and honest about your situation. I hope that all the people who were sort of part in something different at the end of the process of the liquidation will find its peace with it, and particularly yourself, and that you can all move on and maybe find something different.
something else. Yeah, absolutely. And I would agree, and I want to be that person as well. And I'd put myself out there, and I've had, you know, I don't have enough fingers and toes to tell you how many people have phoned me to ask advice because of the situation that they're in. So this is not a situation that is foreign to people who are struggling in business at the moment. And I think being able to have an open conversation is really important. I'm also always available. And I appreciate that you guys are also opening your hearts to that, because I think there's not enough collectiveness in our industry, and I do think we need more of it. I think there's a lot of competition, but not a lot of united kind of collectives. So yeah.
And I can just say why there is still not enough collective. I figured it out. I thought about a lot about that. but in times where a lot of people had a long good time, there is no collective. So sometimes it has to come a time where it's tough, that people actually realize that we need each other.
Yeah, 100%.
Kate, it was interesting, informative, it was encouraging, it was wonderful to hear that you feel better, you have a thing like a little new baby that you try
Yeah,
to
very, very
learn
newborn.
more. Yes, and we hope that everyone that listens is also encouraged. If you are in a bad situation, as Kate said, and there's always people that you can reach out before you do something what maybe is not the right way. Thank you so much. We wish you all the
Thank
best,
you.
and we hope that liquidation will go like away, or will be finished soon. Then you can also close this book, and you can actually start fresh.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks
Thank you
for
very
having me.
much.
I appreciate it.
Take care.
Nice to see you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye. Bye. Thanks.